love those island boys. Little girl, use your head. They will tear you up like a paper toy. Oh, no, no, no. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, no, no, no. When they smile at you, darling, and wink, it's a lethal force that'll bring you down. Trying to get you tipsy like a drink. Love drunk girls.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Rumbi.
Welcome to It's Layered.
We're in a long-distance friendship that started over 20 years ago when we were in high school.
We'll be talking about all things life, love, family, anything and everything else under the sun.
Delve deeper with us, because in life, you know, Zvine, malayers, hey, like a lasagna, hey.
My favorite. How fitting, Ruby, that you mentioned my favorite. One of my favorite meals.
Lasagna. But lasagna has to be done good, though. Like, it can't be just half-hearted.
It can't just be. And I also don't like buying those pre-made lasagnas, like the ones you get. Like, no. I'm like, it needs to be stacked, like properly.
The heck. As you can tell, don't get my mouth watering. We are, I wouldn't even ask how we are. Let's delve right in because I'm ready for this one. This is something I think we both enjoy quite a bit.
Too much, probably too much.
We're going to be talking about cuisine. Yeah, Amanda, do you want to introduce? Because I know you, between the two of us, I think you are the real foodie. Between the two of us.
I think like I actually hate the term foodie because people assume you're like fancy with it. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe that's just,
I think that's you, but okay.
But like for me, I'm like, I'm not fancy with it. I can eat anything and everything.
Yeah.
I like things. I like trying different things. And like for me, my journey with cuisine, my mom loved to cook. So it really helped because we not only had Zim food, but we also had an array of other, like I actually remember her every once in a while, like year or two, she would go for cooking classes with her girlfriends and they'll like pick up new recipes. And then you know those recipes are coming into the roster. You're like, yes. You know, it's not just going to be sada, nemuriwo, it's going to be like with the other stuff in between. So I think I just fell in love with food from then. And also like, the preps, the making people happy, sitting around the table, like just I think everything that the conversation, I mean, especially now more so with social media, like it's your time that you can be guaranteed not to be on your phone. Well, obviously you can choose to be on your phone anytime, but it's a time where it's kind of socially accepted to focus on who's around you and pick people's brains and it's a journey. I don't know. Like, this topic, sorry, it gets me hyped. What about for you, my love?
Need I say more? I think like, I must just, let you shine, girl, because you be knowing. I think it's been interesting. I think I was exposed to different cuisine from a young age too, by virtue of where I grew up and the places I lived. I distinctly remember the difference between Ghanaian cuisine versus Zimbabwean cuisine and just like the array, the variety they had compared to where you come from. So it's been an interesting journey, like for me with food and that exposure, love of flavor from a young age. I think that's the big thing for me that has always stuck since I was young. It's like, it's gotta have the flavor.
It does. It really does.
Like, let's be honest.
And I feel like it's a bit intimate, right? Like, you're not just gonna break bread with anybody. Well, I don't. So I'm like, if I'm sitting down for a meal with you, like not just coffee or like, then you're my real dog. Like, especially if I'm using my hands, your way. Finger licking good food, then I'm your, like, we got this. We're
that's
close.
I'm cackling, but like you guys, as you can tell, Amanda is really invested in the sort of breaking bread process. I love it, but Amanda has always been another level, on this thing. But I agree. I agree, the conversation and the way you're able to unpack certain things that you normally wouldn't, because it allows you just that space to be comfortable. I think it's the comfort level that comes with you're sharing a meal, and then to be able to kind of, that's why people do business over dinner, over meals.
Yeah,
there's a sort of barrier that's broken.
And your guard is down. Yeah. Exactly. And like, I mean, we talked about travel in our first episode, and what better way, and you brought up Chef's Table as well. What better way to discover a culture? Like, because it gets you talking, right? Like, why do you like spicy food? Why is this? Why is that? Like, you know, without being intrusive almost. For sure. What's your favorite cuisine?
That's hard, and it's not fair. It's not even a fair question to ask.
Not fair.
But I'm going to say multiple because, hey, I think I love Indian because the variety. I think that's the thing that really stuck out for me. It's like they have so many ways of cooking and the variety, the option, and it's flavorful,
the
spicy.
flavor.
You know what I mean? So for me, that's definitely up there. I think Thai cuisine is also up there for me. It just depends on mood, because
it does.
Yeah, like sometimes I'm feeling for Sazane lacto. Like that's like one of my favorite, coming back to Zim, like that's a thing for me. I don't know why. I don't know what it did to me, but it did it.
Lacto, for the people who don't know, you have to be breaking it down. What is lacto?
You can gauge lactose. So it's like comes from dairy. So it's like sour milk. It's a sour milk. You can get variations. There's like the processed one that you buy in a packet, and then there's like curdled almost that you can make. You'll make naturally at home.
It comes in clutch,
and it's like you eat it with sadza. Most people eat it plain, but you can also add sugar. I'm the sugar people. Don't judge me. Don't come for me, peeps. I'm just
no. I think when I was younger, I piled on the sugar, but that's becoming less and less.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know what it is, like dessert, but like not. I don't know what it is for me, but I love it like dirt. I also love like really fresh food. So like tapas, like a Greek type, you know, where you're just picking a little bit fresh. Things that are fresh. So it just depends on the mood, where I'm at. Like
because in the comfort food sometimes comes in clutch, like pastas and stuff. You're like, yes, this is what I need. I'm feeling fat. I need to eat this food.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how, like, so you ask me, I'm gonna ask you, because favorite is hard. Like when it comes to
favorite is hard. I must admit, favorite. I think I go through phases, I must admit. Like I'll love something, then I'll leave it for a while, like in cuisine-wise, and then I'll probably circle back to it. Yeah. But like I find, if I think of what we usually eat in our household on like a weekly basis, definitely there's a lot of Vietnamese food, again, as you said, for that freshness. You know, Thai. I like foods that are like, even if there was no meat, because obviously I grew up in a very meat-heavy household, meat-heavy. So if I think of the food without meat and it's still tasty, then it's tasty. Like, 1000%. So that's why I co-sign with you with Indian food, because obviously vegetarian is like huge there, and they really know what they're doing with spices and combinations of flavor. So favorite is tough. I mean, Zim has become a favorite of mine just due to access. So the less you get it, the more it goes up that, you know, you're like, oh, I can't wait. You know, whereas like, if I got it every day, like when I'm home and it's like week 2 and it's been sadza 7 days straight, I'm like, oh, guys.
It's time to switch it up. It's time to switch it up,
yeah. So I think definitely Zim food I have appreciated more since leaving.
Especially me, Mufushwa Unedoi also. Ooh, come through. Anyway, we'll get to that. But do you have a least favorite though? Like if we're gonna call out like the ones we love, is there something that for you is like, I'm not quite, it's not top of my list?
Least favorite, I'd probably have to say like foods that are typically meat heavy, like a lot of, like when you take away the meat, what is there? So like, I don't really like battered stuff. Like I don't know why.
I know that. I
like it. Yeah. So like fried people, which is really bad because the stereotype for Black people is fried chicken. So it's like, actually, I don't like it fried. I mean, I can have it when it's like fresh, like just fried, and the batter is like so crisp that you don't. But once it's sat there, like I'm not cooked. I start tasting I can't do it.
I get
so
you.
I wouldn't say it's like my least favorite, but it has to be cooked well.
Yes.
Or fresh. Super fresh.
Fresh.
Otherwise, then I can't have it.
For me, it's like, I'm actually not huge on like overly hearty foods. Like I do them once in a while. Like if it's too much like a stew and a thing, I can't do that often. And also like Italian, I rarely choose Italian. Like pizza is like convenient food, right? It's just like, okay.
And you can have a couple of slices.
Exactly. But I rarely go anymore for like Italian. Like if I have to choose, it's very, I think it's because there's been overkill and everyone thinks they can do it. Do you get what I mean? Like everyone's like, I got this. But then like you know when it's good, you know, like I remember.
And portion control as well. When it's like that kind of food. Portions are huge.
Huge, yeah. And for me, I'm someone I don't like to feel full. I don't like to be full before I eat. I need to feel like hunger and like that. Ooh, it's not overwhelming. Like that's a major thing for me. I don't like to be like, hey, where now I have to tackle this. Like that's a big thing for me.
I get you.
So I think that's why. But like when we're in Italy, like the food was so good. So that's what I'm saying. I think everyone thinks they can do it, and then they want to.
Yeah, but then you get the OG. Yeah. Because even with the pizza in Italy, I remember like getting there, and then they gave me pizza. And I was thinking, so where's my topping?
Yes.
Like, it looked like it was just about the dough and about the tomato sauce and then a little bit of oregano or whatever, like, herbs you're going to have. Like, whereas here or other places that are not in Italy, it's all about the topping, like how much meat or how much vegetables.
To cover up.
Like, the lot or so it's almost like, when you get the OG stuff, sometimes it's such a big surprise to what we commercially think the food is.
100%. 100%. Yeah. So, as we eat, Shanam, the mouths are watering. Sorry, guys, if you're listening and now you ain't eat.
Don't listen. We should put a disclaimer. Do not listen if you're
when hungry, because you become hangry. Like, let's just put it out there. Is there anything you like or dislike that you've never tried? Do you understand?
Like I like the look of it.
Yes. Or dislike the look of it and you're like, ooh, I ain't gonna try that.
Yeesh.
For me, it's
I think like, oh really?
I think I tried it like, but I was a kid and I don't know why I tried it when I was like, there's no way I was gonna appreciate escargot.
Yeah. For me, it's like a black pudding or haggis or like that. Proper British.
Yes. Thank you.
My colonizer food. I'm just like, it sounds so like
boring.
Like, it sounds so like the food you would eat before we had refrigeration or something, like, you know what I mean? Just like old school, no revamp of it, just heavy and dark and maybe bland. Please forgive me if this is not how. If someone has had haggis and black pudding and thought they were clutch, please come through and teach me, because I've never tried. But the look of it is just like,
you're just not about that life. No, I'm with you. I will say I agree. I don't know if there's any food that I don't like automatically and will not try, to be honest. But honestly, I don't have a deep desire for like English food. Maybe pies, like meat pies, because everywhere else in the world they do like sweet pies, like it's like apple pie, but like the meat pie, like through. Meat pie. Like I used to love steak and kidney. That was my thing.
Yeah. Same.
That was my jammy jam.
My son's like, why kidney? I'm like, it just goes down.
There's something about the kid in the knee. Yeah. It's just like kidney and then woo. But I don't know if I used to despise beetroot for the look of it, the red, when I was a kid. This is also now like changed, but now I love like a beetroot salad with like some pumpkin, like butternut with some feta. Rucola. Anyway,
but do you think like what do you think about, like, you just brought up kidney? What do you think about all those intestines and
I've never been averse to it.
Or, like all those things that are like the internal and the stuff that Westerners throw away or give to their dog.
Yeah.
What do you think about eating?
I think it's about how you prepare it. 1000%. It's about how it's done. I used to love, my mom used to make kidney like for breakfast, eggs, and then like the kidney or egg and liver. It's about the onion and the vinegar combination right there. You need to do the right ratio balance.
You need to cook it properly. Clean it properly so the intestines like you really
things
clean.
like that. Maguru, I must say, it's just the process and smell of the cooking that really
and when they're cold, they go all oily.
When they coagulate and
Funny story, Masal, when we were in Zim and we had breakfast, and then they had made like a nice spread, typical Zim spread, and then he was piling on these kidneys, and I'm looking at him, I'm like, this boy don't like offal, like he doesn't like things. I'm like looking at him, but I'm trying to like be polite at the table, and then I'm seeing him, and I'm like, babe, those are kidneys. He thought they were mushrooms, like champignons. So now he's got this pile on his plate. Luckily, I haven't taken anything from the table.
So you're like, I'll do it.
The patriarchal system, boys go first, serve themselves first. And like literally, I just had to swap plates quickly.
Shame. Like it's a very specific, but I grew up on it. I love it. Maguru, I like hot. Like they need to be hot. And it's for me, I think it's a process of cooking, you know, it smell the whole house. Even if you put onion, garlic, if you close windows, if you whatever, it's just overpowering. It just overpowers everything.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
And it makes you think about what you're eating. You're like, but this is literally like
But I can jam with it if it's cooked well. I'm in it. Like, you know, like I'm not like, I honestly have no problems like chero.
What about chicken feet?
I love, my brother and I used to fight over chicken feet when we were growing up. Like, that was our thing. We used to be like, they mine, snitch. Like we used to be like, hey, don't come. Kanganwa hama. I don't know what part that is.
I love that.
In English.
What is that?
I don't know how you say that in English. Sorry. It's like
anyone who knows, please
let us know. It's like kidney, but like not. It's got the crunch.
Yeah, it's got the crunch. It's almost like a stomach bag, but not really, because then you clean it up as well.
You have to peel off like a
crunchy.
layer of the dirt,
that has the stuff in. Yeah, the unprocessed food. I think.
And the chicken feet. That
I don't do chicken feet, I must admit. Like I used to, but now somehow I think because people here like really, like, you know, sometimes the influence of other people turns your thinking. Like I know in Chinese culture they're huge, but apart from that, everyone else is like, ugh. But I love chicken hearts, and like in Brazil they serve them on a skewer. They do a little line of chicken.
Oh, that's cute. That's really cute. You can not spice up literally, like they really.
There are people.
But yeah, for me, I've never been averse. The only thing I never cared for was like the neck of it. Chicken.
Yeah, no neck.
I'm like, what am I eating? It's just bone.
Yeah, there's not much
like,
there. Yeah.
Or
musoro, like the head.
Like why?
I think the eyes. See the eyes. I was like, okay, this is now.
This is now too much for me. But I love oxtail. I love mazondo. Mazondo are like cow hooves or pig hooves or
trotters.
Trotters. Yeah. That's what we call.
Love them.
Oxtail, love. It has to be falling off the bone though.
You're killing me.
I love the way I'm talking about meat, like I still be eating.
I know, I was about to say, people are going to be like later on in this episode.
Like rumbi. But I think I can appreciate, I've never been one to be like, ooh, I don't appreciate it, or I'm not going to, you know what I mean? Like I know what's good and what's not. So. And
I think food and cuisine is a journey.
Yes.
So sometimes you can get really into, like, there was a time when I was young and I loved donuts. Like I probably eat all, you know what I mean? But then now when you get older, you're like, you know, like, so it's like, you can still appreciate even if you don't indulge.
Yeah. I still love donuts. Donuts are my jammy jam because it's that pastry. Like for me, I don't like, oh, now I'm completely going off tangent. Girl, you done open up Pandora's box. Okay, because I'm like, I don't like cakes, like especially here there's like a fruit cake. They do cakes, but it's full of fruit and like some sort of like not cheese, but like it's like puddingy. I don't know what they do.
Okay,
that's not a cake to me. Cake to me has to have like the pastry side of it, the fluff or the things have to be dense in it. So I like donuts because they are dense, or I like pie, like tarts. Like pecan tart because it's dead. Do you get what I mean? Like I need to feel, taste the pastry. Ooh, girl. Anyway, we digress. We digress.
Do you enjoy cooking though?
I do. I always said I wanted to go for a cooking course before I got married, and it hasn't happened. I'm not yet married, but it hasn't happened. But I enjoy it for doing it for other people. I don't like to do it for like sustenance, like because I gotta eat. I really get annoyed sometimes by that side of cooking. But like to host, to think
hosting
meals, like and trying recipes, or you know what I mean? Like that really brings me joy. Also, just like the cooking process, I love to just like plug in a podcast. And that's really what got me into podcasting. It's like you listen to a podcast, you're just there and you're like taking it nice, enjoying the process, or music, depending on how I'm feeling. So and you always do you like cooking? Have you
I do. I don't like the day-to-day cooking. Like obviously when I start to feel like it's becoming a bit bland, I try to switch it up because obviously it's like but I do love cooking. I love cooking for other people. I love the conversation around cooking. I love it. I do. There's fun. It's fun. And like sharing dishes, different recipes, different ways of doing things. I just I find it very interesting. And I love people who it's just another part of people. Like you think you know someone, then you like you see their cooking or whatever. I don't know. It's like it just shows you a different part of people.
Our tetes will be very happy, and family will be very happy that we like.
Yes. Like my family does count on me to be like when I said I'm doing catering for Aurora, no one was like, girl, what are you trying to do? They were like, well, okay, just like they were worried more for the labor, not the fact that it will be good or it will be presented well. They were like, we know you got this, but it's like, are you prepared to actually feed all these people kind of thing?
But and I think it's fair to like love cooking, and I think it's fair to like not like cooking. I know people who don't.
Of course, definitely.
It's fine because I get that. Like when I have to cook for like daily living, I'm just like I get why people hate it. Like it's just like, do I really gotta eat though? Like you know. Yeah,
so. And sometimes people who don't like cooking, not all, but like might not have been exposed to it, so it seems so complex and so like I remember with my husband when we met, he barely cooked, like barely, and now sometimes he cooks especially now that I'm pregnant, way more than me. So it's like I think it's a building of confidence, and then also seeing people enjoy it and like, I could have done this better, I could have done. So it's almost like it's not a talent that you can just be like, oh, I don't like cooking, I'll never learn. It's never too late or early. Like you can, especially nowadays with quick, easy meals.
1000%. And recipes galore. Like,
the Google is right there.
Recipe for like that's my favorite line.
My hats.
Exactly. It's really cool.
So
but like,
easy now.
Do you follow any diet, a way of eating? Because there's so many like vegan, vegetarian, keto. That's a diet though. But like a way of, let's say a lifestyle, like a eating lifestyle rather than diet.
No, not really. I've been trying to incorporate less meat. But not always so successful with that one.
Yeah, no, but I appreciate your appreciation for food. Like between you and my sister, I don't think I've met people who love food the way you do. And I think what's great though is like, speaking of you, it's like you're an all kinds of food person, which I think is great. And I think that's what like is enjoyable about life. You get what I mean? Like not being too rigid.
Too fussy with it.
So you can do seafood, you can do like a steak, do you get what I mean? Like you that, which is dope.
I haven't ever really followed a strict diet, and like church-wise or religion-wise or my household-wise, we didn't have to as well. My totem is fish, so I'm not meant to be. So my dad was a bit iffy whenever fish was cooked in the house. He was a bit like, he had like, you know, but the highs and lows with it. But my mom was like, bruh, we'll make chicken for you on the side. So, you know, it was kind of like, but I never really have followed. I mean, obviously diets I have, which we'll go into, but like a way of life or lifestyle or restriction in terms, I guess, of some sort. I've never really had to.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I've definitely been on the other spectrum of it. Like growing up, we grew up in a household through church. We didn't eat pork. Like that was just a no-go. I'm sure I ate pork before, and then my parents were like, "Oh, hold up, like no." So definitely had that, and then encouraged to be vegetarian and all that. I've definitely dabbled in all sorts. I've dabbled in veganism, all that kind of thing.
Did you find it hard, Rimbi? Like
and I was in Zim, like being a vegan. Firstly, vegetarian is hard enough because people are like, but you eat chicken.
People would just literally remove the meat. Like if you say you don't eat the meat, they'll give you the gravy and remove the meat. You're like, that's not the concept.
Or they'll be like, but don't you eat chicken? And I'm like, but I don't understand. So it was 1000% hard. And vegan was, I loved that I did it. I don't know if I would do it again, but I liked how it I think creatively it was fantastic, because I was like, I made like avocado fries. Like who knew that existed? I was like just doing all sorts. So I think for me, I appreciate I had the experience of that. Would I do it again? I'm not sure. Because another thing is when you are vegetarian and vegan, a lot of the time you depend on legumes like beans and things like that. My stomach doesn't like that too much. Like it's too much air. I don't know. It makes me gassy. I don't, that's, you know what I mean? So not really. So I've been primarily vegetarian, but I do eat fish. So pescatarian. And now I eat white meat a bit more just to like balance it, also for health reasons and So definitely. But I done dabbled, girl. I done dabbled.
I love this.
But
because in Zim they don't respect you for things like that. And plus, like I remember my dad, like obviously having high blood pressure or whatever, they were like, you should have this diet and follow this. And my dad, like, it's such a conundrum, I think, for some, like especially people of our parents' age, because it's a status symbol as well, right? Like if you can eat meat, eat a lot of meat, eat fancier cuts and stuff like that, if it's beef or whatever, then it's like you got more money, you know? So it's almost like for them to be told, oh, go and just eat vegetables. Yeah. It almost seems like a downgrade. And yet when you're in Western culture, you're like, it's actually expensive to eat quality fruit and vegetables, which we have in our backyard. Like our avocados in Zimbabwe grow so big. Huge. And then people just treat them like, you know, dirt food. Meanwhile, if you have avo toast, people like you're rich. Like, so it's so funny the ideas we have around food.
1000%. And like that's the thing. I think I'm Ndebele, so like meat is heavy. Like in the, you know, cattle farming is typical, like keeping cattle is typical in the Ndebele culture. So I think my dad was just like, yo. And then on the other spectrum, my brother loves meat, like loves meat. So it was just like, what's going on? But I think growing up too with so much of the meat, and the thing is, people here find it strange. Like I'm like, beef was the accessible meat growing up, and we ate a lot of it. Like doesn't mean it was like the best cut. We weren't eating like steak, like that.
Yeah, it was well done, too well done.
Yeah, exactly. But it was just. It's just heavy. So I think I had that. I'm like, I don't need that. I don't need to feel that level of heavy all the time. Like, you know? So, But have you ever followed any like diets? Like, or what do you think about diet culture?
I have for like reasons like, oh, I want to lose weight, I want to do this, so I should watch that. When I did comp, which we talked about before, obviously I had to do a strict diet, like measure your food and all this stuff, and then like go into keto so you can lose fat or whatever. But like I don't have a problem with it if there's like a goal. Like in terms of if you're a sportsman, right, obviously you can't be having burgers and chips and fries. Like this is the way it is, right? If you want to run up and down for 90 minutes as Ronaldo, you're not going to be eating, whatever, you know, like all the things you need or want or see. But then at the same time, if it's like not making you happy, not fulfilling you, like then it's like, well, why are you dieting though? Like it shouldn't be such a... I don't know. Food should be enjoyed, even if it's restrictive, even if it's healthier, even if it's whatever it is. It should still be enjoyed. Like if you see yourself just sitting there and eating it just because, or because I want to lose an extra inch, or then it starts to become a bit unhealthy. So I think diet culture just scares me. Like this whole idea that you have to be one certain body shape and look a certain way.
Yeah, 1000%.
I just find it so. I find people who are on diets miserable. Like. I've never met someone who's like, I'm on a diet and they look happy. Even Beyonce, I think she was like rehearsing for some show, one of her documentaries she did. She was like sitting there just eating an apple. And she said it. She's like, oh, this is horrible, but I want to get to my goal. So it's like, okay, I can see that. But at the same time, it's only for a short, it's not sustained. Like you can't do it forever and ever. It has to be for a short spell of time. Yeah, and then you saw how after she had her twins, she's like embracing the fupa and like, you know, like the little belly. Exactly. And Rihanna's the same. Even before she got pregnant, she was looking thicker. And Thicana. So I just what think, was the name? Thicana? Yeah, Thicana, yes. So I just think as long as it's not like obsessive, or if you're doing it for a reason, for a short spell or for whatever, but not to the point where it's just like, I don't killing your food. Spirit, and killing your soul. Can I just say, guys, huge props to Amanda, like for that goal for comps. I was like, girl, like she looked incredible. And I think for me, what I will give you props on was that you saw that as a goal for yourself and you really went for it and like you killed it. And I think I understand like what you're saying about having something you're aiming for. And sometimes it's interesting to see how our bodies can transform if we allow them or if we do follow. But I think obsessiveness, and I think diet culture is an obsessive thing. You know, I've talked before about how for me growing up, it was like, you're finishing food for your older sister, or like having that. So I've always had a love-hate relationship with food as a result. So I think diet culture for me is something that I don't like to dabble in so much. Like I'll be like, yes, I need to eat healthier. Or like what I typically do is like during the week, I'll eat as clean as possible and like be as, you know what I mean? Like stay away from too many of the treats, like, you know? But allow myself to have that so that it doesn't get out of hand. And more, I'm learning to listen to my body, because when I listen, it actually tells me, like my body tells me literally like, girl, there's too much sugar. I do not want any more of this. Like, please stop. Like my body, like if your body, when you develop a better relationship, it tells you. But diet culture, for me, it's seeing like the deprivation and like the kind of sorrowfulness of it all. I understand, but it's like, again, going back to media and the whole idea of what kind of body you should have and uphold. There's a difference when it's for health reasons, right? Like where it's like you're diabetic, you cannot be fighting me to eat all the sugar. Like there's, you know what I mean? So then there's that, we're not talking about that side, but where it's like you're kind of restricting yourself just for the sake of like, I don't know, denial, because you want to do something. And it's what you think will make you happy. Yes. 1000%. So do you, I mean, you've already kind of answered the question by saying, have you struggled with weight or food? Like, do you feel like, how do you feel about it now if you realize that you did struggle before? I think it's like, it's a dance and it's a balance. Like I would like to be like, oh yeah, now I'm totally fine. No, like you definitely have days where you're like, I feel good about myself. And then days you're like, oh, I would really love to get rid of this fupa. You know, so I used to have it quite bad, especially when I was in boarding school. I used to comfort eat a lot. So I was just like, if I was miserable or sad, I would just like start eating, you know. But now I'm a little more conscious, and good and bad days, hey? Like some days I'm like, I ate too much, or, you know, and some days it's like, oh, I feel good about how I ate and things like that. I think this is why we talk about like the psychology of growing up with certain pressures or certain
it really sticks with you for a longer period of time than you think. And like people just say it. Yeah, people just say it like quite callously, like, oh, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't be eating that. Oh, you're going to get hips, like some, you know what I mean? And then we hold on to that, especially growing up exposed to a more Western world where it's like, my body has never looked like that. It does not have that form or shape.
Yeah.
So it's a constant. Yeah. And for you, have you ever struggled at all with weight and food?
For me, it's always been a bit weird because, and I think we touched on this when we spoke on body image for our Boss special, because it's like, I was skinny, but then unfortunately in the land I was in at that time, skinny wasn't a good thing. So it was almost like, where's the balance? But I mean, I just I knew I was eating. I knew I was eating as much as I could. So I didn't really like concentrate too much on it. Obviously with the rise of social media, you're seeing like all these bodies, but then at the same time, they're also telling you how they're tweaking it and faking it. So I think I've always been quite a conscious eater and like quite a, like even consumer of stuff. Like I'm like, okay, that's just Photoshop. Like I'm not gonna, it's okay. You know, we're not gonna look like that. Like, and I think that has helped me having that a bit of a sixth sense and then not aspiring to things that don't even exist really. But I have seen a lot of people, I mean, high school, you brought up high school, a lot of people who struggled with weight issues or food issues. And it kind of makes me sad because it's like, a part of me feels like it doesn't have to be that deep, but I understand that it is that deep. You know what I mean? So it's like having that grace with people or just, trying to navigate that space must be so hard. Like if you are big and everyone's telling you how big you are, it's like, well, how do you win? So I think personally, I've been quite lucky, but I have seen a lot of struggles, especially for women, Like it's unbelievable how like we can be like, oh, a guy can have a pot belly, literally a pot belly, which is usually regarded as unhealthy and it'll be fine, but a girl can't have the same. Like, it's like, it's just the double standard. Right? It's shocking. It's shocking. Like, and like sometimes even now when I'm thinking about, you know, kids and having a child, I'm like, a part of me is like, maybe it should be a boy because I know those things will be like so hard to navigate, especially if her and I don't have the same body type. Because then if I'm skinnier or whatever, then it'll be like, you know, it's just, it's a lot. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart.
And you think about that, like, so true. Like when you think of like when you have children, it's like, yo, what would you pass on, and how do you help them navigate like some of the things you struggle with? And you're right, it doesn't need to be so deep, but it can be incredibly deep. And the funny thing is, like, even those people who are like, you're fat, and then I remember losing a lot of weight, and then they're like, oh, you're fat,
now you're too skinny.
No, it was like, oh, you're fat. And then I remember my mom literally being like, y'all are crazy. Like, she's not even, you know? So it's just like people associate you with this and they peg you and they want to keep you in that place. So I think it's that kind of realizing that you will never be whatever, you know? And even when I was smaller than some of them, it's like this person had this perception of me from an age and is not willing to see that I have changed or I will change. So, and then that's when you realize that actually it's not worth killing myself over this idea or ideology that have over me.
And the dismissing, like, oh, she's just a fat chick, or you know, or when you're asking and you gain weight and people give you that judgment, like, whoa, you went and gained weight overseas or whatever.
Exactly.
Like, it's strange. We really put a lot of weight on weight. But like,
that was a good one. No, for
we
sure.
We really do too much.
We do indeed. But coming back to like the more fun side of things, because I think it's important to talk about this, but for sure, we want to talk about Zim food. And what do you love most? I think we've already touched on it a little, but like, what do you love about Zim food? And why do you know?
It's hard. Zim is home. So that's what I think, it's like a comfort as well. And as I said before, now not living there anymore, it's almost like a treat. You know, so it's like, even when I go to the South African shop here and buy like, you know, ufu and cook my own salsa, it's just like it's and I think it's the memories attached, you know, because you're like, oh my God, I love this meal, you know, and it's just, Yeah, it brings me joy.
Nostalgia.
I love Zim food. Yeah,
nostalgia.
I can't even explain it. Like, and I do like the abundance of fruit and vegetables, and like you don't realize it until you leave. That you're like, wow, that's like, fruit grows everywhere. I don't have to pay for fruit. I hardly, unless I'm craving a certain fruit that we don't have or a relative doesn't have, then I'll literally go and buy. But usually, like, somebody who has a banana tree, somebody with an orchard. Yeah, so it's like, and then the seasonal foods. So you're like, we're definitely getting into summer because we're seeing these, so it's like, I just love it. I love everything about it.
Like guava. Oh my God.
Yeah, yes. And there's like there's no nasties, no chemicals, it's just so pure and fresh. I love it. I love it. What about you?
It's the nostalgia for me. I remember when I met my parents in the summer and then they brought me a whole I had a suitcase just for like Zim
yes, the jealousy.
Like that for me was just like the nostalgia of it. And it reminded me of my grandma, how she always, like, when we'd visit and we're leaving, she always like stack us with like food to take home. So right about the freshness, like I miss vegetables. Like honestly, I took it for granted. Like the fact that when Anna Mama would be like, and I know Tana spinach garden, and you're like, oh gosh, Mom, why did I get a Tana the spinach? Meaning, go get spinach from the garden, like. And here it's like spinach. I'm like, this ain't spinach, or like you know what I mean? It's not the same.
Yeah, definitely.
Or tomatoes, like they're like too red, too raw. I'm like, this GMO'd the heck, or you know what I mean? Like just that. And I think it's a sense of community, going kumusha, and how we used to get a plate. You share sadza, nenyama, nemurio, and you're just that communal way of eating, or a barbecue, everyone coming together. Someone's made sadza. My mom used to make this amazing, like she makes this amazing like barbecue, like sauce gravy, like, and you had that, you had your salad, my veggie, and your meat.
Rumbi, my tummy. Now I'm like, I need to go and eat.
It's problematic. We need to be doing this. So yeah, I think that's why. Is there anything you like least about it though? Like the Zim food?
I think the politics around cooking. Which we have touched on. We have touched on so many times. This whole, anyway, you're not doing this right. You're not doing, like, sometimes there's so much policing that sometimes I'm like, it could harbor us trying new things or doing it an alternative or different way. And I think the thing with traditional food, sometimes we've done it for centuries and centuries, right? That if someone offers something new, it can be like, no, we don't do that. So sometimes it's like we're a bit too protective to a fault. So it's like, no, well, maybe let's try it a little bit like this, or like what you said about being a vegetarian or vegan at home. It's such a new concept for Zimbabweans, but it's like, we can actually be very much thriving as vegans and vegetarians. Like the setup is there. It's just the mindset that needs to, like, because it's not like, so it's almost like, can the mindset just come through? We've got the platform.
Can I give you an example? Sweet potatoes in Zim are a dime a dozen, easily available. Then I remember typical way of having sweet potatoes in Zim, you boil and you peel and you drink with tea. Like you eat with tea.
It's like a substitute for bread.
Yes. So I remember being like to my aunts, y'all know there's other ways to eat sweet potato, right? And then they're like, what do you mean? We don't know. And I'm like, let me show you. I made sweet potato fries. I did like baked wedges. I made a sweet potato pie. And they were just like, oh, we never knew it. And I was like, yeah, that's called so case in point, there's other ways to do it. And I think for me, similar to you, that's what I think is the most frustrating thing for me about Zim food at times. It's like, it's only done one way, or there's only one way to do it. I agree. Sorry, I just needed to.
You almost have to. But you almost have to trick people into eating it before they go, or they see someone popular doing it, or they eat it somewhere else one day. Like it's like the convincing is just like too much. It's like, guys, you don't have to be gatekeeping this cuisine. Like
1000%.
cuisines evolve as the people are also evolving.
Yes,
so, yes.
I agree. And I think for me, like another thing with Zim food is like, we have variety, but we're saying, there's no new ways. We're not experimental. And I think it's very much, we eat as a matter of necessity sometimes. Like, it's like, oh, I just need to fill my stomach. So you hear people who eat sadza makseni, sadza palanch, sadza maneru, like morning, night, afternoon and evening, eating the same thing with just vegetables, meat, or some protein, vegetables. Do you get what I mean? And it's like, for me, that I think it's a mindset of just eating for sustenance is what I wish we could kind of like move away from, like more like to enjoy and savor food, because you see it how we eat fast. It's like, because you need to fill. And I remember having this conversation too with I think it was my mom, and we were talking about how, Zim cuisine can sometimes feel really limited. And then she was like, but I think it's because of struggle. Like people are just like, hey, I just need to fill my stomach. That's all. And we're used to that. We don't evolve. And I was like, it's so right. Like, how can you be worrying about, let me
and courses and stuff like this.
When it's like, I ain't even got enough. I'm just have enough to get by, So I understand. It's not, I don't think we're coming from a sort of like a dismissive way, like, come on, be more experimental with it. I think though, it's the idea that there's only one way to make.
That's what that part, because it's like, because it's like we can make it more visual. We can make it more, it's not to say we want to change up everything, but just let's experiment once in a while. If you have access, obviously, and if you have, but it's not to say like, it's almost like people, when you suggest, people think you want to change everything up. And it's like, no, just a little, try it like this. How about that, And it's only when popular places do it, or restaurants, or it catches on, then people are like, oh yeah, but it's like, we could have been doing this. We have the treasure because our fruit and vegetables are A1. So we can do it. We can definitely do it. It just needs that creativity. But then the creativity needs space. And if you don't give it the space, then it's gonna die. And then
I think there's a mentality of like, hey, I know Vaira. They're showing off. Like when someone tries to be like experimental in our culture, it's often like, I know Vaira. There's no like, I love what she's doing with this. You know what I mean?
The supportive
nature. We have
a
very like let me bring you down instead of raising you up. And I'm like,
or like you forgot this, like not enough salt or something. You're like, oh, okay, but is the food good? Put some.
Exactly.
So, but do you think our cuisine as a whole is dying? Like you've talked about access, obviously eating quickly to like just get it done, go on to the next thing, education around it, us being in diaspora. Do you think, where do you see Zim cuisine at the moment?
I think yes and no. I think the more people move away, yes, we get less access to it. But I think also we build a greater desire to have those things. So you're more invested in knowing about them, like, I think what we then lose is like the education. Like I remember growing up and going to my grandma's and being told like, this is African bubble gum, or this is, you know what I mean? Like this is how we should brush our teeth. Things like that. But I think too, people are still there and we still grow every year. Everyone will plant their maize, and plant. Do you get what I mean? Like people are still there. It's still that for people on the ground. So it is maintained. It's unfortunate to see though how takeout is a bit of a luxury in Zim. So I think there's this idea of like wanting that. That's the desire.
Like status
that's the
symbol.
Aim, which takes away from it instead of like, we've spoken about Boma in Victoria Falls and how they let you eat different foods, like Zimbabwean foods, which are local, but they just make it fun. But again, that's now luxury. So there's so many facets.
So for the everyday person,
So the everyday person, their desire is to eat more Western food, like your pizzas, your chicken and what, your, so Yeah, I think it's a dance. We will still eat because it's a staple. You know, chibage is a staple in our diet. Like certain things are staples, but in terms of being
the other periphery stuff,
yes, we may lose that. Yeah, and you,
I agree with you. Completely agree with you. I think it's such an interesting topic because it's almost like the economy did affect that way of life as well. Like, you know, now when you go kumusha, is someone actually going to pick up the tsubu and the matowes?
Yes.
And you know, do our dads actually teach them to their sons and their daughters to then teach that? Like, is that still happening? You know, do you have that one cousin who's the hookup? And if you don't, then you don't have it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like those finer things. Like, even I love when your mom sent you the package and she gave you like ufu, you know, so you can cook. Like, for me, I'm not familiar with cooking with it, but I love to see it. I've tried it a couple of times, but again, if I don't have that access, that plug, it's like cut off. And I think that's where we at the moment, where that precipice of, if we don't take enough pride in our stuff and realize we have plenty of variety, it might die. It might actually just end up being sadza, and you know what I mean? Like just the common things, but all those other specialty things might just end up being, well, if you live close to it or if you know someone who has it. Otherwise, the majority don't really like, you know what I mean? And like Western influence is definitely a big thing. People want, you know, fried chicken and chips, you know, so it's like one of those things where it's like, okay. So it's almost like we still need to create that balance where we find pride in our own stuff. And I think that pride would then push us to keep trying and experimenting. But I think economy, as you said, has heavily affected it. Because if you're not going kumusha that often, or if you're don't have the money, or it's cheaper just to buy, then and fast food can be very cheap in Zim. Very cheap.
But I think too, speaking of like my mom and how she had like Sanzaregio, I really think my parents developed an appreciation for those things because we lived outside of Zim for a long time. And then we lived in West Africa, where they are so proud of their food and culture. So then that lack of builds the appreciation of. You get what I mean?
Yeah,
so
no,
like
I get it completely.
Step out to get it, like
to get back. Yeah, but then you have to come back. But now with diaspora, you might step out and never really.
Yes. But like for us who will be going home and visiting, that's where that appreciation. Like now, I just thought of Majanje. Bruh, when did I last eat?
Majanje, come in, blood.
And remember, they used to be like, "Usaji got too many. Like if you eat too much."
And we used to have this big mahabrosi, which are like blueberries.
My aunt used to make mulberries,
mulberries, and then you get under your shoes, and people be like upset with you. They're like, "What's happening there,
it's hard to wash. It's hard to wash.
But you'll be like, then your mouth will be like.
My aunt used to make mulberry juice. My aunt used to make guava juice, bro. Mango.
Yeah. So I really do think we need unfortunately, it's a patriarchal society. So we do need matriarchs who are like your mom, like holding it down, like really cooking, really showing people and passing on those things, because that's the only way it won't die out. That's the only way people will be like, oh, I haven't had this in a minute. They'll be like, no, I have this every season, you know? So we really need to invest in that, I reckon, as a people.
I agree completely. Man, oh man, what are you? Man, there's so much now. I've been thinking, this Majanje thing is now in my head, and I don't know if it'll be season for Majanje when I go home. I don't think so.
No,
usually rainy season, right?
Usually it's rainy. Rainy seasons when you get all the good things.
I'm hacked.
That's why people love the rain.
Yeah, for sure.
You can probably buy from somewhere. But what are you most looking forward to when you go home next? What's on your list? So that is on my list. But my dad knows, without a doubt, the first meal Amanda has when she lands is sadza nimbora. Like, and sadza. My dad knows, like, guys, don't even be trying to trip up and like, this is what she needs.
Don't do too much. Just do the right thing.
Don't do too much. You know, then maybe roast chicken on the side, like, you know, but like, so I'm looking forward to that. I do like, it's so funny, I don't really like beans usually. Like when I see them in other cuisines, like black beans in Mexican food. Feijoada in like Brazilian food. I don't really like, I'll eat it. But when it's Zimbabwean style beans and they be cooked, and then the like little stew or whatever comes, then you've taken me. So it's either Southern beans or it's Southern Nimbora. Like, those are the two.
I'm with you. I'm with you. For me, touchdown meal. Yes. I've already said it, but I said it already. That's my thing. I used to do even up at school, you know, when you'd go home for fixture free, my mom knew. Yeah. It was for dad, they had to be lacto in the fridge because Rumbi was in it.
That's coming.
But so much chibage, I love like real chibage, not sweet corn. I don't know how else to put this. Like just like mayonnaise. Like
funny how the West have all their versions. Because even kale, and I had it the first time, I was like, this is muriwo. Like I can't figure out which muriwo it is, but I know this is muriwo. It's not kale. It's like some of that, but this is muriwo.
Oh, girl! And then like I love mufushka unedoi. But actually now you spoke about bora. I haven't had that in a minute. Or what you might call it, derere.
Okra. Yes.
Okra.
And they can't do it like the way we do it. People like I've had it in other cuisines, but ours is the best.
The Ghanaians, Ghanaians then add like chili into the
that. Yeah, I love that
and
too.
Meat. They put meat and the together, but
I also love high feeds when they mix the like muriwo with the nyama, and it's like
1,000%. And probably chicken feet. Yeah, I'll say that. Roasted chibage. Chicken feet.
Why do we have to end it with chicken feet? No,
That's my thing. That's my thing. Yeah, man. It's just memory lane of note. Nostalgia.
I actually think if Boma could come to Harare or like a Harare version, they would make a killing.
Well. They would. I'm sure they must.
We are ready. We're ready for our obviously, yes, as you very well pointed out, it's a luxury. So I guess for me, I can't think of a luxury version in Harare like that does all, because then what ends up happening is maybe you have to go to like the high density suburbs or an American for like, you know, good, authentic. So interesting. Business idea. Let's start a business.
You don't change with the thing. Copyright. I know we have a copyright.
Yeah, guys. If anyone starts it, I know where to go. Where you got the inspo from. But because I love food, please try.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, God, this is too juicy. Pun intended. So our Zim shout outs for this episode. Amanda, do you want to kick us off with our Zim shout outs?
Definitely. We talked so much about Zim food, and we do realize that globally it's not part of the conversation, which we really think is a disservice because you're also missing out. So, you know, we try to highlight Zim chefs or chefs that are trying to bring our cuisine to the world. So my shout out for this week is at Cooking with Kaz. She actually has a book called Cooking with Kaz. Nice. She's based in the UK, but is Zimbabwean. And just, it's our food, like what we talked about, with a bit of a twist. So you can make it accessible wherever you are if you're not in Zim. But at the same time, you can then strip it back to make it more authentic. So shout out to you. We love what you're doing and keep going.
Keep it moving. And we decided because one is never enough. Who needs only one serving of goodness? Coming with a double take.
Keep it dessert.
Hey, our second shout out for this episode is Chef at Chef _Dananai. She's a Zimbabwean chef who is doing big things. Just go on her page, y'all, and just see what she'd be up to. I love how she combines obviously Zim cuisine and like makes you feel that nostalgia, but also she's showing that Zim chefs are also doing that thing. Who will not today hear that song?
But this is R. Kelly and Chad and Chain. Conversation for another day.
Another day. But honestly, shout out to Chef Dananai. I think as a woman, doing your thing, representing Zim and excellence and doing it beautifully, and helping to move the conversation around food and Zim forward. Yes. We are here for it. Like y'all know we're about supporting Zimbabwean entrepreneurs, creatives, talents, you name it, because if we don't support each other, who gonna be that boo? So shout out to Cooking with Kaz and Chef Dananai. Thank you for ripping us so well. We hope you enjoyed. Please actually let us know what are the foods.
Favorite food.
Y'all be feeling. We want
that makes you think Zimbabwe. Yes, we want to know that food. Tell us.
Please keep the energy. Let us know because we clearly are all about that life and we're all salivating together over this. So thank you so much. This was so much fun. We hope you enjoyed it. And we look forward to seeing you again. Take care, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.